Hi and welcome. My name is Dennis Brown, and this is my weekly Freight Broker Bootcamp Live. Today, we're going to talk about the hardest part about becoming a freight broker, the hardest part about starting a freight brokerage business. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about today. That's the topic. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining me. If you're catching me on replay, hit me in the comments with hashtag replay. Love to hear from my replay folks. And listen, guys, here's going to be the agenda. We're going to go through the training. And then if we have time, we might do a free giveaway, Freightpreneur t-shirt, someone who solves problems you don't know you have in ways you can't understand. And then last but not least, we're going to do live Q&A. As always, I typically tack a live Q&A onto the back of this. So if you have questions about this training or freight broker startup or freight broker sales or freight broker marketing or operations or getting your authority or negotiating or whatever it is that you have questions or you're running into challenges, catch me on the back end of this and we will do some live Q&A. All right. So that's the agenda. So for now, while we're waiting for a few people to get live, hit me up in the comments. Let me know the city and state you're logging in from. Love to hear from you. I'm in the Buffalo, New York area. I'll try to give some shout outs and then we will get the ball rolling. As you can see, I have a lot of notes to go over. Okay. There's a lot of information here. I will try to condense it, keep it as short as I possibly can. But this is a really important topic. This is something that, I thought about a lot over the weekend. I was actually traveling this past weekend. I was in Kansas City. First time ever there. Beautiful. Loved it. Had a great time at the NCAA Wrestling Championship, the Division I NCAA Wrestling Championships. I go every year. I'm a wrestling nerd. I wrestled from the time I was 7 all the way through high school, all the way through college. And I have a lot of friends that are still coaching and wrestling and whatnot. So a couple buddies and I go every single year and we had a lot of fun, but it got me thinking about kind of some of these topics, right? And risk and taking risks and calculated risks and how to do that. And so that's what we're going to talk about. That's what we're going to talk about today, right? And, the hardest part about being a freight broker, we're going to dive into that today. We're going to kind of pull that apart. So let me give some shout outs really quick. Jason Rouse from Olivia, Minnesota. Welcome. Shaka from Hope Mills, North Carolina. Ravinder, what's it cost to become a broker? Hang tight, bro. Be around at the end and we'll get into that. Corey from Billings, Montana. Patrice from New Orleans, Louisiana. Manny from Boston, Mass. Gary from Houston. Welcome. Fred from Quebec, Canada. Ravinder from Princeton, New Jersey. Jomo Mighty from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Listen, I recognize a bunch of the names that come in here regularly. There's probably some of you that this is the first time you've ever been on one of my lives. Welcome. Congratulations. Thanks for being here. And many of you come every single week. So I'm humbled that you take the time to spend a few minutes with me live every Monday. I really enjoy it and I appreciate it. So if you guys are excited, hit the like button. If you think this topic is going to be valuable to you, hit the like button, share the stream, let other people know. Listen, the fact is that 9 out of 10 people that find my training, my Freight Broker Bootcamp online training and my Freight Broker Sales Accelerator training, they do it through word of mouth. They do it through you sharing things on social. And so like it, share it, let other people know about it. Truly appreciate it. And we're going to get started in just a minute. For those of you that are just kind of getting your wits about you here, today we're going to talk about the hardest part about becoming a freight broker, the hardest part about starting a freight broker business. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And again, we've got a bunch of people that are joining us. Simon, welcome. You're waiting on your t-shirt. I don't know that I even got your, Simon, if you won, did you message me the address? Because I don't recall ever getting it. So I don't recall ever getting the address. If you won, then I need your full address, your size and all that. You need to message me either on LinkedIn and or on my Freight Broker Bootcamp Facebook page in order to get the t-shirt. Apparently Simon won the t-shirt, which is awesome. And I'm happy to send it out, but I don't recall getting the information from you so I could mail it. Okay. So send that out to me. Let me know when you won and what it was, and we'll go from there. But we'll make sure you get it, okay? I promise. Sean from Belhaven, North Carolina. All right, cool. So we've got some people joining us live, and a lot more people are going to catch us on replay. Again, I've got a lot of notes to cover. The agenda is going to be this, right? Let me see where we're at on time. The agenda is going to be, we're going to do the training up front. We may do a live giveaway, may not, depending on time. And then last but not least, we're going to do live Q&A. So thank you so much for being here. Again, oh, Cynthia from Maryland. Thank you, Cynthia. She's always here. She's a regular. Thank you so much for being here. All right, cool. So let me grab a quick drink and then we will get this show on the road. I know you guys are busy. Quick tech check. How's the audio? Is the audio clear? Can you guys hear me okay? You know, it seems like occasionally I run into these little tech issues. Is the audio and video clear? Can you guys hear me? Give me some feedback in the comments and let me know. Welcome, Charles from San Francisco. Hit me up and just let me know if the audio is clear and clean and you can hear it good. Good. Okay, cool. Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, here we go, guys. Today, I want to share with you the hardest part about becoming a freight broker, the hardest part about starting a freight broker business. And it's probably not what you're thinking. Okay. First, I'm going to start out with a quick story. And I've had this recurring story over and over again in my career since I became an entrepreneur back around 1994. So we're going on 30 years now almost that I've been an entrepreneur. And so I've had a lot of friends and I've had a lot of people that have come to me over the years and said, hey, Dennis, I want to get your opinion. I got a business idea that I want to kind of share with you and bounce off you and kind of get your thoughts on it. And I'd say, sure, no problem. And then they would tell me the business idea and I'd ask them a simple question. And I would say, how long have you been thinking about this idea? And they'd say, well, you know, it's maybe been a year or 3 years or 5 years. I remember one guy who even told me, well, you know, I came up with this idea about 10 years ago. And I'm thinking to myself, what could be taking you so long? What's holding you back? What's preventing you from pursuing this idea? Because some of the ideas that I heard from people I thought were really great ideas. Others, maybe not so much, but some of them were really great ideas. But the reality is, what it comes down to, the biggest reason that they didn't pursue it is the fact that they are afraid to take calculated risks. They're afraid to take risks. And a part of starting any business, whether that's a freight brokerage or a freight agency or whatever business you're looking to start, there's always going to be risk. The fact is there is no risk, right? There is no reward without risk. So in the freight brokerage business, right, people are afraid to take risk. They're afraid to risk their money, right? They're afraid to risk capital, the capital associated with learning the right skills, like, you know, getting shippers, AKA sales, right? Negotiating, sourcing carriers, those sorts of skills. They're afraid to invest capital. They're afraid to invest money into developing those skills. And that prevents them from being successful, right? So they're also afraid to invest in the startup requirements as a freight broker, things like your freight broker authority, your freight broker bond, your load boards, your TMS, you know, freight broker training, right? The training associated with learning how to become a freight broker. So they're afraid to invest capital. They're afraid to risk their money in order to take those steps, right? They're also afraid to invest in people, right? So they're afraid to invest in, let's say, a bookkeeper. They're afraid to invest in operations people or dispatchers or salespeople, right? So they're afraid to risk their capital. They're risk adverse, right? They have a high adversity to taking risks. And so, you know, you got to understand something. And I'm very realistic about this. It's very hard for me to teach you how to take risks. It's extremely hard. Some people are just more risk adverse than others. But what I want you to understand is that I understand that there's fear associated with starting a business, and fear can be good, right? Fear has some positive attributes, right? Fear is designed to keep us alive. Okay. That's what fear is there for. But the problem is you can't let that fear rule the roost. You can't let that fear dictate your every move. And that's really what it comes down to with risk adversity. You are adverse to taking risk out of fear of losing or loss, right? Or failure. And so I want to share with you, I want you to lean in really quick. I'm going to share with you 3 simple tips to help you get past your fear of risk. Okay. Now, these are not guaranteed, and these are not something that I made up. These are things that are based upon my own personal experience. So this is my personal experience on if I were sitting down to coach you on how to get past the fear of taking risk and adversity, right? This is what I would share with you. Okay. So number 1, okay, you have to stop worrying about failing. The fact is, you've heard this before, if you are going to be successful, you are going to have to be willing to fail. But here's the cool part. Failure doesn't always mean that your business is going to ultimately fail. As an entrepreneur, right? As a business owner, as a freight broker or a freight agent, you are going to have what I call micro failures. Every day in your business, you're going to have micro failures. You're going to have small incremental failures that you learn from. So perfect example, you pick up the phone, you call a prospect, that prospect tells you no for whatever reason. That's a micro failure, but it's not going to cause one no is not going to cause your business to fail. So the reality is, you will learn from that, you will evolve, and then you will be able to get better. And maybe the next call or the 10th call or the 100th call or the 1,000th call will lead to you getting your first ship or your first customer. So you have to get past the fear of failing. You have to get past that. That's an important part because that's directly tied back to your risk adversity, your adversity to taking risk, right? Which is one of probably the biggest reason why people struggle to become a freight broker, because they never get started. Okay. So that's number 1. All right. Number 2, you have to educate yourself. You have to find a reliable, credible source or sources, and you have to immerse yourself into that industry, into the freight brokerage business. If you want to become a freight broker, there's tons of free information out there about becoming a freight broker. Some of it's credible, some of it's reliable, some of it's not. I have a YouTube channel with over, I think, 300 free videos on it. You're maybe watching this on YouTube right now. I've personally done over $200 million as a freight broker. I've built 4 multi-million-dollar companies in my career. And I don't say that to brag, but I want you to understand that not everybody has the same level of credibility, history, reliability, and experience. So the fact is, you need to immerse yourself into the freight brokerage business, and you need to learn some of that. Now, there's a lot of free information out there, but of course, there's courses, there's programs, there's coaching, there's training. I have what's called my Freight Broker Boot Camp, right? Which is my startup program where I've trained over 10,000 students since 2009. I went through that program. Many have went on to build 6- and 7-figure businesses. And that's a program that I offer. Again, it has a 60-day, 100% unconditional money-back guarantee. You guys can check that out at freightbrokerbootcamp.com. But number 3, this is an important one. You have to learn to visualize your success. Now, how does this tie back to risk adversity? Well, the fact is, let's think about it this way, all right? Again, the fear is what's driving this risk adversity. You're afraid to take risks. And so this visualization exercise that I've personally done, okay, for many, many years has had a huge impact. Let me tell you a quick story, okay? I remember this when early in my entrepreneurial career, not when I first became, but early in my entrepreneurial career, I was the guy who wanted to be a millionaire, right? I wanted to be rich. I wanted to be a millionaire. I wanted to be successful, right? What was successful to me back then, okay? So I had this definition of success, and part of that was having $1 million in my checking account. So I remember very vividly, I remember doing this every day. I would close my eyes, and I would visualize walking down to my mailbox. I think I was living I was living in Buffalo at the time. But I remember walking down to my mailbox, opening my mailbox, pulling out a letter, and it was from my bank. At the time, I think that was HSBC Bank, I think is what it was. It's not around anymore, but it had HSBC on it. It had my address. And I remember opening the envelope. Now my eyes are closed. I'm opening the envelope. I pull out the statement, and on the statement, right at the top of the statement, there was a big $1 million is the balance in your account. And I remember visualizing that over and over and over again. And so I did that for years and years. And eventually I was blessed enough for that to finally come true. But the thing is, I tie it back to this risk adversity because that built my confidence. That and getting in touch and contact with what that goal was, what my why was, the reasons why I was willing to take those risks. I was able to connect the reward. So the reward became more important than the risk. And so those are a few steps that you can take. Again, number one, stop worrying about failing. You're going to fail. That's part of the equation. Micro failures does not define you, and you can still fail a little bit every day and succeed in the long term. Number two, you got to educate yourself, right? You got to find a reliable source, a reliable coach, a reliable mentor, someone who's reliable that can give you the information and help you fold time, right? And save you from making mistakes. And number three, you need to learn how to do this visualization exercise. That was a perfect example of how I did it, but you need to learn how to visualize to help you to overcome your risk of adversity. Okay, so those are my 3 tips. Listen, I hope you guys appreciated this. I hope this was valuable to you. If it was, hit the like button, share the stream. And most of all, listen, if you're looking for a mentor, looking for a coach, looking for somebody to give you that education, and you're just in the startup phase, you're just interested in starting to become a freight broker or freight agent, check out freightbrokerbootcamp.com. Again, trained over 10,000 students, have that program since 2009. We've got amazing ratings and reviews. You can check those out online. And we offer a 60-day, 100% unconditional money-back guarantee. I can't make it any easier than that. You can check that out at freightbrokerbootcamp.com. All right, cool. So for those of you that want to stick around, into the live Q&A, I'm out of breath here. I was going pretty fast. So hope I wasn't talking too fast. I hope it was clear. I hope it was valuable to you. Hit me up in the audience here. Let me know. Do you think, how many of you are struggling with this? You're afraid to take risks, and that's the reason why why you haven't gotten your business off the ground yet, right? Is there anybody in the audience that's struggling with this concept of you're afraid to take risk or risk adversity that's holding you back from either starting or growing your freight brokerage? I mean, there's got to be some people in here, right? I'm going to grab a drink. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know. And then we're probably not going to do a giveaway today. What time is it? Yeah, we're probably not going to do a giveaway today. We'll do some Q&A for sure. Hold your questions though. Hold your questions because I want to hear from the audience here on who's struggling with this. Has anybody here struggled with the risk of, the fear of taking risks when it comes to your freight brokerage? I know we got a bunch of people watching, mainly it seems like on YouTube, some people on LinkedIn, maybe a few people on Facebook. All right, cool. Okay. Yeah. Jomo, that does make sense. I'm afraid to take risks, but I'm more afraid if I don't. That's a really good point. And that comes down to that risk versus reward, right? When you look at taking risks as pure risk and you don't visualize the upside or what might happen if you don't take those risks, right? The alternative of taking risks can be worse than taking the risks themselves. So I think that's kind of what you're saying. So I like that. All right, so we've got a bunch of questions flowing in, so we're going to jump into that. All right, so hit me up in the comments with your questions. I will gladly get to as many as I can. I will not get to everybody's question today. If I don't get to it live, I'll try to come back in later and maybe answer it in the thread. Hit me up in the comments with your questions. I'm going to try to get down through these really quick and see if I can help. Okay. Diana says, my issue is how to get shippers. So that's holding me back. Okay. Well, if you have a specific question about that, Diana, make sure you hit me up. But don't just say, how do you get shippers? Be specific. Okay. Because it's very hard to answer that question. How do I get shippers? It's called sales. Okay. And Gary, perfect example. Gary says, how do you build business? How do you build a book of business? Yes, I'm scared. Okay. Building a book of business is kind of like saying, hey, how do I get customers, right? How do I get shippers? It's called sales. There is no load board. There is no push button, technology that's going to help you get shippers. There's no setting up a coffee shop on the corner of Main and on the corner of Main Street in a busy intersection where people are going to walk into your business. It's going to take a lot of outreach. It's going to take sales outreach. Sometimes that outreach is most commonly by phone, by email, by LinkedIn, or by face-to-face. Those are the four most common strategies for doing outreach, starting a conversation, starting a dialogue with your target market, right? So I can't get too far down in the weeds without having a specific question, but if you guys need help with that, right? If that's something you guys are struggling with, which is getting shippers, right? And learning that process, what I would suggest is get on my wait list for the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator. That is my Freight Broker Sales Coaching Program, where I teach my best freight broker sales strategies, tactics, tools, but most importantly, my entire system, my Freight Broker Sales system of how to get shippers that help me to do over $200 million as a freight broker. So you can get on the wait list, freightbrokerbootcamp.com/waitlist. It's closed right now. You can't join, you can't buy it, or you can't enroll. The coaching program's sold out, but we will be opening some seats in the coming months. I don't have a date yet. So if you get on the wait list, you'll be the first to be notified when we do open those up. Okay. All right. So I hope that helps. Be specific with your questions if you could. Betty Jones says, I've heard that since I'm a new authority, shippers will not use me. I hear it takes a year. That's not true. No, that's not true. That you hear a lot of that BS out there, and please don't take it wrong, Betty, but you hear a lot of people out there that like to make excuses for, let's call it their failure. Okay. Their failure to take action, their failure to make adjustments, their failure to learn the right skills. It doesn't take a year for a shipper. Shippers don't have you got to be in business a year in order to do business with them. No, that doesn't happen at all. I have new students that graduate from boot camp, take massive action, and get shippers their first week. I have a perfect example. I have a student who coming to mind right now, Elio Longoria. His first week, he had no experience as a broker, no experience as an agent, no experience as a truck driver, no experience really in shipping or logistics. And his first week as a broker, he set up his brokerage. His first week, he did $7,000 in profit. That was profit, not revenue. He got one shipper, did $7,000 in profit his first week. So no, that's not the case. The key is you have to talk to enough people. You have to build trust. You have to create more trust than there is fear, because again, the reason why a shipper doesn't do business with you isn't because of the age of your freight broker authority, isn't because of your rates. It's because they don't trust you. So you have to go through the process of building that trust. Because again, every load that they entrust to you might be worth $30,000, $50,000, $100,000 or more in value. So that takes a certain amount of trust, because remember, they may not be 100% happy with the provider that they have, but it goes back to that old adage, the devil I know versus the devil I don't. They'd love to have a better service provider. They'd love to have someone who was more responsive. They'd love to have somebody who listened to them better and actually came up with ideas on how to improve their supply chain. But they're stuck with this guy or girl because it's comfortable. Even though it's not everything they want, it's not comfortable. So your job is to build enough trust to allow them to come into their universe and show them that there's a better way and that there's more opportunity and that you can be trusted, and that with that trust comes value, right? So I hope that helps. But no, there is no hard and fast rule out there that says you have to be in business for a year. I'm sure there are shippers out there that are adverse to doing business with new brokers. You want to know why? They overpromised and underdelivered. They have experience with using brokers that weren't, didn't do things the right way, didn't have the right skills, didn't have the right systems, didn't have the right training, and therefore they had a negative service response. Maybe they failed to pick up the load, or the load was double brokered, or the load didn't deliver on time, or whatever. And now they've got a bad taste in their mouth, right? So there probably are some shippers out there, but that's not the norm. Okay? Hope that helps. Love it, Betty. Perfect. Okay, so Sean, I'm not really scared, just having trouble finding, well, you're saying a surety bond. So as a new freight broker, if you want to get your freight broker authority, you have to get a freight broker surety bond. Okay. That surety bond has nothing to do with cargo insurance or liability insurance. Matter of fact, the only thing that surety bond is for is to protect carriers, to ensure that they get paid by brokers for the services they provide. That's the only value of a surety bond. So that $75,000 surety bond guarantees carriers that they will be paid up to the first $75,000 in claims in the event that broker went out of business or failed to pay. So here's where you can go. Here's what I'm going to tell you. If you guys want a surety bond, okay, let's see, where is it? It's got to be on here somewhere. I have a link. Okay, so here's what you can do. Go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/bond. We have partnered with a surety bond company that probably provides more surety bonds for the industry than any other freight broker surety bond provider. I've had a relationship with them for many years. They've worked with hundreds and hundreds of my students over the years. So if you go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/bond, you fill out a quick application, they will contact you and they will walk you through the process of how to get your bond, what your cost is going to be, all of that. Okay. They're going to know from that form that you're a part of the Freight Broker Bootcamp community. And I promise you, they're going to take care of you. I've heard nothing but good things from students about how they've taken care of our students. So you can check that out if you're looking for more information about the bond, the cost, and all of that. Okay. So anybody interested in or needing more details or looking to maybe switch their surety bond or whatever the case may be, go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/bond. Hope that helps. All right. All right. So what other questions do you guys have? Okay, here's a question from Shaka. Do you think using government contracts to build your brokerage is smart? Well, I'm not sure what you mean by government contracts. I mean, that's pretty generic, right? There's a lot of different parts of the government. There's Department of Defense, there's FEMA, there's all these different divisions of the government that actually control freight spend. In most cases, you're probably not going to have a contract, but you could become a government provider. Now, to become I'm pretty sure for FEMA and I know for the Department of Defense, you have to be in business in order to be approved as a provider for the DoD. You have to be a broker for at least 3 years. There's some other, check boxes you have to have, but they are going, as a government provider, they're going to vet you at a higher level. They have higher requirements than just the normal shipping, going out to the market in the commercial market, right? So yeah, there are some additional check boxes you have to meet, but yeah, we moved a lot of DoD freight. There are some freight brokers that exclusively move DoD or FEMA or other, government entities. They focus on that niche. So I think it's a great niche, but for a startup, it's going to be pretty challenging. If you're a true startup, it's going to be pretty challenging because you're going to have to meet those requirements, which typically they're looking for at least a few years in business. Plus, you're going to have to probably have a different level of surety bond and a few other things that you're going to have required. Nothing that you can't get over or get past, but there are some additional requirements to move government freight typically. Hope that helps. Question from Jason. How important is it to get insurance for a brokerage to cover yourself against carrier downfalls? Okay, so listen, number one, brokers are never responsible for a freight claim or a liability claim, okay, unless they are negligent, okay? I don't know what's going on here. I froze. Okay, I unfroze. Okay. So they're never responsible for a claim, particularly a freight claim, unless they're negligent. So the reality is, what I want you to understand is that freight brokers are not required to have cargo insurance or BIPD, public liability insurance like carriers are, because the carrier's cargo and the carrier's insurance are the primary coverage there. Now, so there is no law that you need that coverage. Now, there are optional coverages that you can get as a brokerage called contingent cargo, contingent liability, things of that nature. So, but when I first started as a freight brokerage, I didn't have any of those coverages. I didn't need it. I didn't think I needed it. Most shippers do not require contingent cargo. Some do, some don't. But the point is, I got started without contingent cargo. And then I finally ran into an opportunity where a shipper required it, and I felt very comfortable we were going to get the business from them. So I went out and procured contingent cargo, and then that shipper ultimately ended up paying for me financing that contingent cargo insurance that covered all of the shippers that I was doing business with. So I think at some point as you grow in the freight brokerage business, you will probably get contingent cargo insurance, but it's not a requirement to get started. It's not a must to get started. You will be able to get shippers without contingent cargo, but a lot of people want it up front. So, it depends upon your financial situation. Contingent cargo, depending upon the provider, you're talking thousands of dollars a year for coverage of contingent cargo. So if you have that cash flow or you have that ability to do it, great. If you don't, it's not a requirement. Okay. So I hope that helps. Yeah, Shaka, there are minority-owned business. There are benefits to being minority-owned businesses. So I don't have a lot of experience in that. But I know that there are government programs that help try to allocate a certain amount of business to minority-owned businesses. But I don't have a lot of information on that. I'm probably not a great resource. But yeah, that's something you definitely pursue. Okay, Marcus says, I'm a new freight broker. How do freight forwarders work? Okay, the difference between a freight forwarder and a freight broker are very small. Okay, but typically what it comes down to is that freight brokers never take possession of the freight. Okay, so a freight broker simply is a middleman that connects shippers and carriers. Okay, but they never take possession of the freight. Now, a freight forwarder can take possession of the freight. Maybe they have their own equipment, their own trucks. Maybe they're cross-docking it. Maybe they're warehousing it. Maybe they're doing a little bit of both. They're using their own trucks and they have their freight forwarding authority where they can outsource it. But a lot of it comes down to taking possession. Freight forwarders can take possession of the freight. Plus, freight forwarders a lot of times are doing intermodal. So there'll be a freight forwarder that'll do let's say, for example, international freight forwarders, right? Maybe they're based out of, wherever. They're based out of one of the major ports, and they've got a trucking company right in that area with 10 trucks or 50 trucks. And then what they're doing is they're providing the trucking side and maybe some warehousing side, but they're also have a contract with the ocean vessels, right? Or an NVOCC, right? Someone who can ship on an ocean vessel, right? To try to keep this simple. And then what they'll do is they'll find shippers where they can control the entire movement from pickup to the port on the ocean vessel all the way to the other end. So international freight forwarders have a tendency to do door-to-door international service, which usually goes via ocean. But the biggest difference is that freight forwarders can take possession of the freight brokers don't. Okay. So in just the most layman terms, that's the difference. But the core job that a forwarder does and a broker does are very, very similar. The authorities are different. You have to get a freight forwarder authority, which is the very similar process to the broker authority. But freight forwarders are required to have cargo. right? They're required to have insurance in order to be a forwarder. Freight brokers are not. That's another big difference. Let's see. Okay, so Juan, wait. No, that's the wrong question. Sorry. What's your opinion the best way for you to vet carriers and prevent double brokering? Okay. So there are technology software companies out there, and I'm working on and having conversations with some of those companies in regards to helping you guys come up with a system for vetting carriers to avoid double brokering, to avoid any compliance issues. But I think that I did a training. If you go to, I did a training on this on my YouTube channel. I don't know the link, but I did a full training on vetting carriers. Obviously, you want to make sure that their carrier authority is active. Obviously, you want to make sure that they have the proper insurance, right? You also want to make sure that they're not listed on maybe a carrier 411 or a freight guard for past double brokering issues, right? So you can subscribe to those services and find out if they have had past double brokering issues. The other key thing you want to do, and I'm just going to give you a few tips. This isn't an entire system, but I'll give you a few tips. You want to make sure the phone number that they're calling from is the same as the phone number that's listed on the FMCSA, on their carrier authority on the FMCSA. Okay. If it's not the same, then you want to call that corporate office and make sure that the person from that phone number is authorized to move loads for them. Right. So once you vet them the first time, the cool part is you really only got to vet them once. I mean, you do have to validate the insurance, but you don't have to validate their identity multiple times. Once you've vetted them and that the number's correct and you know the contact is correct, obviously you're going to be able to start doing business with them at a more brisk pace. But the initial one, you need to slow down. You do need to vet your carriers. So those are a few tips, right, to make sure. I hope that helps. I would check my YouTube channel. You can go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/YouTube. Let me pull that up here. It's on here somewhere. I got all these links. I don't know. Yeah, go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/YouTube, right? And that'll bring you to my YouTube channel and search for carrier vetting or setting up new carriers. And I think I did an entire training on that. I think that would be helpful for you guys, but it would be way too much to try to include in this. But those are a few tips. Verify their authority is active, make sure they have the proper insurance, make sure that the phone number they're calling from matches the phone number or the email and phone number matches that's what's on the FMCSA. If not, verify it before you do business with them. And then check Freight Guard, which is the TIA watchdog service and or Carrier 411 with their Freight Guard reports, which is the Carrier 411. And there's other companies out there now that are going through this system and technology and processes for helping to vet and prevent double brokering. And I'm having some conversations with those companies now, so I will have more to offer you in the future. So there are software and systems out there that are designed to help vet carriers, and I'll be sharing more about that in the near future. Okay, Juan says, I'm a CDL holder and I'm trying to learn or starting my own trucking brokerage from California, by the way. Okay, great. Good for you. Awesome. I think being a truck driver who's got experience as a driver, you have a huge advantage over the average person just walking down the street, right? You already know the lingo. You already, know what it takes to pick up and deliver a load on time. You know about the equipment that you move. You're very nuanced when it comes to that. You understand the way shippers think. You have contacts within the industry with other carriers, with shippers where you've picked up and delivered to. So you have a lot of advantages that I didn't have when I first started back in 2003. Okay. So I knew way less about the logistics industry when I started back in 2003 than you know right now. Okay. So kudos for you. Samara Trucking asks, what can you do when shippers do not pay on time? Okay. Well, there's an old adage when it comes to getting paid, and that is squeaky wheel gets the grease. Okay. So number one, for my first tip, when you first bring on a new shipper, you have to set the proper expectations. before you move your first load or right after you do your first invoice, you need to reach out to them and you need to let them know that paying on time is very important to you. And in the event that they're not able to pay on time, unfortunately, that's going to cause a service interruption. We need you to pay the bills on time. Is there any issue with that? Do you need any special paperwork? Is there any special billing requirements you have? And establish that up front before it's too late and it snowballs, right? So setting expectations with that shipper up front are very important, right? Number two, if the invoice isn't there by the time that, the due date is there, pick up the phone, send an email, and the squeaky wheel gets the grease. I promise you, people that are on the phone and calling and trying to push to get paid those invoices are going to be paid faster than the vendors that don't, okay? Number three, in the event that they don't pay, you can hire a collection agency. Obviously, that's always one way to do it, where they'll reach out, represent you on a contingency basis where, whatever they collect, maybe they take 20 or 30 or 40% of it, but they're collecting the bills. So you can have them call. They're experts in learning and helping businesses get paid. So you could hire a collection agency. You could hire an attorney to maybe send a threatening letter. Sometimes that letter to a CFO or to a controller will get people's attention and get you paid. The other thing you can do is this. This is something that has worked in extreme circumstances where you don't want to do business with that shipper anymore. So I would make sure that that's a caveat. If you're done with this shipper but you want to get paid, what you can do is you can send them an email, send them a letter, have a conversation with them, and let them know that you've picked up from all these different locations, which are probably some of their suppliers, and you've delivered to some of these locations, which are probably some of their customers, and that you would hate to let them know about the financial difficulties they're having. And as a matter of fact, you might want to call some of those people and nose around. And if you called one of their customers, all right, and you said, hey, listen, my name's XYZ. We've been working very closely with ABC Widget Maker. We delivered a bunch of product into you guys over the past 6 months. And, we're having a hard time getting paid by them. Are you guys experiencing any issues with them as far as financial issues or any sort of complaints or any sort of issues? And what that's going to do, this is kind of a cheat code, right? What this is going to do, that person is very likely going to be surprised, okay? And what they might do, and what they do in many cases, is they will reach out to the manufacturer, to your shipper, and they'll start asking a bunch of questions, and they'll let them know that you've been reaching out to them. And all of a sudden, it's amazing how sometimes you can get paid and that phone's going to ring or the check's going to show up or the ACH is going to show up, because the last thing they want you doing is calling their shippers and setting fires. Okay. This is what I call the circle them. You surround them with fire. It's the circle of fire. You surround everybody around them, whether that be vendors or customers or shippers or whoever they're doing business with. You let them know that you're having challenges getting paid by them, and you ask them if they're having any other financial issues or if you know of any financial issues. And all of a sudden, people are going to start contacting them. And once that fire's lit, all of a sudden, they want to put the fire out, right? Where there's smoke, there's fire. And all of a sudden, if there's fire, then all of a sudden they might lose a customer, might lose a vendor, and they don't want to do that. I promise you. So that's another strategy you might be able to use. Okay. Question from, all right. Hi, Dennis. Is it common that in many cities, state bids, there are only one or two participants? Oh, so you're talking about doing state work? I don't know. I never worked for the state. We never did any transportation for the state. Now, we did transportation for vendors that supplied the state, but the state was never our customer. So I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. I don't know. I know we used to have some shippers that provided services and products to different states, but I don't know about if there's one or two participants in those bids. I really don't know especially on the transportation side. Okay. I'm not sure. Sorry, I can't help you there. All right. So I'm just looking for questions here. Hold on. Okay. So here's a question. All right. Severick says, hi, Dennis. I just took Freight Broker Bootcamp and the Self-Paced Sales Accelerator. Congrats. Awesome. Opening my brokerage June 1st. What's the best way to convince a carrier to work with me? Will factoring companies help with 50-50 pay? Okay, great. All right, cool. So what I want you to do is I want you to go to my YouTube channel. Okay. I just did a training on this last week. Go to my YouTube channel, which is freightbrokerbootcamp.com/YouTube, or you could just go to you go to YouTube and search for Freight Broker Bootcamp. And I did this training, and the training is titled Why Quick Pays Are Killing Your Freight Broker Credit. Okay. Go into that training. Okay. It says the thumbnail says, stop doing quick pays till you see this. So go to my Freight Broker Bootcamp YouTube channel and go through this training. I did an entire training. Matter of fact, I brought in an expert on building freight broker credit. He owns and runs a factoring company that work with startups, and he has an entire training program, okay, on how to build your freight broker credit. Normally he sells that program. Matter of fact, I'll put it up here. Normally he sells that program for $250, but for my students, he's waiving that fee. Okay. So you could, let me put it up here. Okay. If you guys want the free, let me see. Okay. So here you go. All right. So here it is right here. If you guys want access to the free freight broker credit, how to build credit as a freight broker training. Okay. The expert that I brought in, Tom Crotow, developed this training. He sells it for $250, but because you're a part of my community, he's going to waive it. But you only go through that link, freightbrokerbootcamp.com/broker credit. It's a free training. I took the training. It's really, really good. And it will answer all your questions about that. Okay. But you can absolutely use that training and a factoring company to help you to motivate carriers to do business with you. Right. So he goes through that entire process, and I think you guys will really enjoy it. It'll be extremely helpful for you. I do not bring outside providers on here very often. I go through a very strenuous and vigorous vetting process before I ever bring a vendor up here. I've only brought maybe a TMS provider, a bond provider, not very many people have I ever brought up here live and recommended as an expert in their niche, but Tom is definitely one. So you guys could sign up for free. Now that's not going to be available forever. I mean, you guys got to do that now. He's going to take that link down, probably not too far into the future, but if you get enrolled in that now, it's absolutely free. You'll always be able to buy it later for $250, but for my students, it's absolutely free. Okay. So I hope that helps. All right, let me scroll through. All right, I'm just looking for some final questions here. Okay, trying to find questions that make sense. Okay, what do you recommend I do on how to start my trucking brokerage or learn about it? Okay, so one, I can't tell you on the trucking side if you're trying to start a trucking company, because I never owned a trucking company and I don't teach people how to start trucking companies. But if you want to become a freight broker or freight agent, you're in the right place. My suggestion is absorb as much free information as you can. For example, my YouTube channel, right? Just go to youtube.com, search Freight Broker Bootcamp. You'll see my bald, shiny head. Go to the channel. There's over 300 free training videos there. Okay, this is an example of one. Okay. The other thing you could do is you could get enrolled in a freight broker training program. I have Freight Broker Bootcamp. There are tons of them out there. Mine is designed specifically for startups. If you want to become a freight broker or freight agent, you can check it out at freightbrokerbootcamp.com. We offer a 60-day, 100% unconditional money back guarantee, and we're well known to be the most cost-effective and comprehensive online training program available today. Okay, so that would be how you would do that. Follow that system. Whatever you get into the system, we have a system on how we do that. But absorb free information, find somebody that you trust and has a credible source of information, and then leverage them to help you get started. Right. So I hope that helps. Oh, there's also a download. Hold on a minute. I can give you this download. Let me see. Where is it? Hold on a minute. Let me just see something really quick. Maybe I can give you this. Yeah. Okay. Go here. Let me pull this up. I'm going to give you guys a link. If you're looking for a step-by-step process, okay, without paying for the training, without getting enrolled in the training, go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/7 steps. That's going to give you a free download with 7 steps to follow to get started as a freight broker or freight agent. Okay, it's free. It's 100% free. So you guys can get that free download. Just go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/7 steps. That would be probably a quick way for you to really dive into what you need to do in order to go from where you are now to start moving freight as a freight broker. Okay, so I hope that helps. Okay, guys. Greetings from Armenia. Greetings from Buffalo. Thanks for joining me. Listen, everybody, thank you so much for being here. Do me a huge favor before you sign off. Let me know how valuable was this training? The topic that we covered about, being afraid to take risk and risk adversity and the tips that I gave you, how valuable was it? Give me a score of 1 to 10. 1 if you think this was a complete waste of time. 10 if you think it was extremely valuable. Anywhere in between. If it's anything below an 8, tell me why. Give me some information. Tell me what I could do better. Critique me, right? I'm not above critique, right? Help me to understand how I can improve, maybe other topics that you want to talk about. But yeah, hit me up in the comments, 1 to 10. Let me know your feedback. I'd love to hear from you. It's always valuable to get your guys' feedback. Again, be honest. I tried to put together something that would really, truly help you. The majority of the people that are on my YouTube channel are interested in starting or becoming a freight broker, freight agent. And I just thought that is probably one of the biggest things that's holding them back. One of the most difficult or hardest parts about becoming a freight broker is having risk adversity or not being willing to take risks. And so I wanted to break that down for you guys, share with you some tips on how to maybe overcome that fear of taking risks so that you guys could take that first step, launch your business, and hopefully build a successful business. And maybe you'll be on here. I'll be on here interviewing you a year or 2 or 3 years from now, talking about your success story. I'd love to do that. So hope you guys enjoyed this. All right, good. So we got some good feedback. All right, sweet. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for the feedback. I appreciate it. I will be back Monday with a new Freight Broker Bootcamp Live every Monday at noon. And so I appreciate you guys being here. Again, if you guys are interested in becoming a freight broker, check out freightbrokerbootcamp.com. If you guys are interested in signing up for the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator, you're going to want to get on the wait list. That is at freightbrokerbootcamp.com/waitlist, wherever that link is. I have too many links in here in this deal. But it's freightbrokerbootcamp.com/waitlist. Where is it? Son of a bee. Sorry, guys. Give me a second. Man, I got so many links in here. Oh, here it is. Okay, cool. If you want to get on the wait list for the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator, go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/waitlist. It's free to get on the wait list. The training is not free. The training is not cheap, but it's worth it. Okay, so get on the wait list. You'll be the first to get notified when I open up enrollment for new seats in the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator coaching program. Again, thank you so much for being here. Have an awesome day. Have an awesome week. And I'll see you next Monday on the next Freight Broker Bootcamp Live.